today began like any other for Halle Berry, Jenna, and their friends. A laughter over coffee, shared jokes, and photos taken in front of the window light. Yet tension simmered just beneath the surface. It was a casual get-together, one designed to reconnect, to spark creative energy, to share ideas and memories. Halle, ever the charismatic presence, was in high spirits, making sure everyone felt included. Jenna, her longtime confidant, reciprocated with warmth and enthusiasm. But one remark, harmless to many, struck a chord with Halle. It was casual, perhaps even well-intended, about a past decision Halle once made, something about turning down a role that had haunted her ever since. The comment drifted into the conversation effortlessly at first. "Remember when you passed on that part in a Project X?" Jenna asked. Laughter followed, soft and nervous. But Halle's smile faltered, her eyes tightening with something like regret or defensiveness. Jenna continued, oblivious to the shift, detailing how critics later praised the role, and how fans assumed Halle had missed an opportunity. Others around nodded, chimed in. It was supposed to be small talk, but with each word, Halle's posture changed. Shoulders stiffened, she leaned back. The air, once full of warmth, now carried tension. Someone in the group, a friend who had worked with Halle previously, said, "Everything you do is subject to that kind of scrutiny though," trying to diffuse. The tone was gentle, sympathizing. But for Halle, it was too much. She had been carrying her choices, her successes, her regrets in private, and here, in front of her friends, those past roads taken or not taken felt like open wounds being poked. Jenna, noticing this, attempted to redirect. "Let's talk about your new project. I saw the trailer, it looks amazing." But the pivot came too late. Halle leaned forward now, voice low, controlled, but with an unmistakable edge. "Why bring that up now?" The room grew quiet. Jenna's smile dropped. A friend raised eyebrows. Something nobody expected was surfacing. Not anger exactly, but disappointment. Halle's words were not loud, but each syllable weighed. Jenna stepped back, visibly confused. "I didn't mean to upset," she said, trying to soften. But Halle, with a sigh heavy and measured, said, "It's not about upsetting. It's just a broken bar timing." Her hands clasped in her lap. The conversation stalled. Jenna looked around, seeking support. Some nodded, some looked down. The coffee grew cold. Between them lay an invisible chasm of unspoken emotions. Jenna, recovering, offered an apology. "I'm sorry, Halle, truly. I thought reminiscing might bring us closer. I didn't realize it would hurt." Her voice quivered slightly. Others murmured in agreement. Halle nodded, eyes watering, but didn't respond. Instead, she stood, suddenly. The table scraped as if punctuating the moment. Her phone in one hand, coat in the other. "I need some air," she said. Steps echoed in the quiet room as she moved toward the exit. Jenna called after her, "Halle, wait." But the distance between them was no longer just physical. Outside, the wind brushed Halle's hair. She paused by the building's entrance, gazing out into the street. The night was cool, distant traffic lights flickered. Beneath the street lamp she looked small but unbowed, chest rising and falling. Inside, Jenna stared at the empty chair. Confusion, regret, sorrow intermingled in her expression. Others in the room exchanged glances. One stood slowly, heading toward the door. Another remained rooted. The moment stretched, time thick with what had been said and what had not. Halle's mind raced. All the remarks, the laughter, the shade of criticism and the praise, every element converged into something bigger. The weight of public expectation, the ghosts of past decisions, the fear of being judged, missed, misunderstood. Here, among friends, she expected safety, acceptance. Instead, she felt exposed. She wanted Jenna's warmth, but the reminder of past choices felt like a betrayal, even though no harm was intended. Emotions churned, anger, sadness, pride, regret. She drew a deep breath, trying to steady herself. Meanwhile, inside, Jenna gathered herself. She felt remorse, and something else, guilt at having triggered this moment. She paced, hands clasped. The others watched Jenna struggle for words. "Do you think I meant to hurt you?" she asked, voice cracking. Silence. Halle's absence weighed heavy. Jenna's mind replayed the conversation, the joke, the praise, the misunderstanding. She knew Halle was fragile in some moments, and that the past held too much. Jenna wiped a tear, uncertain whether Halle would return, whether this was a rupture or a pause. Halle, outside, considered returning. She touched her phone, almost dialing Jenna, but words felt insufficient. She rehearsed what she might say. "Thank you for caring," or maybe "I know you didn't mean harm," or instead, something sharp. "Please don't reduce me to past regrets." But each version felt flawed. She felt trapped between understanding and pride. The night air did little to cool her heart. She squared her shoulders, thought of her journey, each decision, each sacrifice, each moment of doubt. This was one more. Inside, Jenna wrestled with the dilemma, chase after Halle and risk pushing her further away, or give space. Be patient. She knew silence had weight. Her eyes followed the path Halle took, disappearing down the street. One friend murmured someone should go after her. Another said to give her time. Jenna raised her voice, softly. I'm sorry, Halle. I love you. Please know I'm here. The words felt small. She pushed through the door. Others held back, letting her pass. The threshold crossed. Halle walked under dim street lights, each step echoing. She paused at a corner, arms hugging herself. Memories flashed. Childhood, rising star, roles chosen and declined, the weight of public gaze, moments of triumph, moments of quiet pain. She had always carried more than she let on. In her solitude she tried to reconcile. Was she overreacting? Did Jenna cross a line? Or was she reacting to something deeper, something not easily named? The clash felt like culmination, not of this moment alone, but of many. Jenna stepped into the night behind her. Halle turned, surprised. Jenna's face reflected worry. She advanced slowly, hands open. I know this hurts, Jenna said into the night. Halle didn't reply. The cool air stood between them. Jenna's voice soft but firm. I never meant to invade your past or your choices. I only ever admired your courage. Halle's breath visible in the cold, heavy. Jenna's words unspooled in the quiet. Halle listened, the hardness in her eyes fading slightly, replaced by a guarded hope. Jenna, I see you, Halle. Not the regrets, not the past paroles. I see the woman you are now. The strength, the art, the love. Halle's voice came, barely. You saw them joking. I felt smaller. Jenna moved to stand beside her, distance reducing. Then I meant it wrong, she said, but I meant it with love. Halle's chest tightened. The crack in her voice, despair mingled with relief. Jenna's hand reached for hers, as if to stitch what had broken. Halle hesitated, then let her hand rest, fingers brushing. Inside, their friends watched through the open door, then left behind. The confrontation had gone out into the world, no longer confined to the living room, the cafe tilde copyright, the home. The night sky stretched overhead. Halle and Jenna stood under the same blank canvas. Halle's pulse high, Jenna's heart on her sleeve. Words, unspoken, trembling between them. The street lamp flickered. Halle's expression softened, but pride lingered. Jenna waited. Halle closed her eyes, then opened them, at Jenna. I needed you to see me whole, Halle said, voice low, but steady. Not just as someone who missed chances. Jenna nodded. I do see you, she replied. Every choice, every hit, every miss. They are yours, and they made you you. Halle's lips curved into something like a sad smile. Jenna drew her nearer. I'm sorry I brought up something painful without knowing. Halle inhaled, the air cold in her lungs. She exhaled, releasing tension, letting tears perhaps fall but unseen. She leaned into Jenna's apology, into the comfort of her presence. Jenna said quietly, I will do better. Halle looked at her, the streetlight illuminating tears, regrets, but also resolution. Thank you, Halle whispered. Jenna wiped her cheek. The night held them in its stillness, the cool wind a witness. The city's hum distant. Halle's breathing evened. Jenna's forgiveness offered, and Halle's acceptance, fragile but real. The tension that had threatened to snap between them softened into something akin to understanding, perhaps even love. Back inside, friends packed up coffee cups, blankets shaken off chairs. The space they'd left felt empty, heavy. One friend said, she'll come back. Another, I hope so. Jenna, shoulders squared now, face wet, brushed hair back. She gathered coats, turned off lights, locked doors, then stepped back outside. Halle still stood on the curb. Jenna reached for her, silent now. The only sound the distant car tires, wind in tree leaves. Halle looked toward Jenna, considering. Halle's voice, I need you to promise me something. Jenna nodded earnestly. Promise you won't ever use my past as a punchline, even in jest. Jenna's hand tightened. I promise. Halle closed her eyes, taking in Jenna's promise. The air seemed to lighten. Jenna exhaled. Halle turned and together they walked slowly toward home, toward the place where safety and friendship had once lived, hoping it could again. The road ahead between them was not without risk. Halle knew forgiveness wasn't instant. Jenna knew apologies weren't erasures. But there was motion where once there was stillness. Halle felt the ache in her chest ease, the shame retreat. Jenna felt the guilt fade, replaced with resolve. They would speak again. They would rebuild trust. The journey back was tender, full of hesitation, but also full of love. They walked side by side, shadows long behind them. Halle allowed herself to be seen and not perfect, not proud, not in denial. Jenna allowed herself to be vulnerable, to admit mistakes, to apologize. And in that is the heart of friendship, the confrontation, the rupture, the apology, the acceptance. In the silence between them lay the weight of unspoken fears, the joy of reconciliation. Halle's steps grew steadier. Jenna marched them. The street ended, the lights of home ahead. Halle felt lightening. Jenna looked at her, eyes shining. As they reached Halle's door, Jenna paused. I love you, she said simply. Halle nodded, opening the door. Inside, warm light welcomed them, the soft hum of lamps. Halle removed her coat. Jenna folded it, placing it on the sofa. They both remained quiet. The room was familiar. Halle looked at Jenna. "Thank you for seeing me." Jenna smiled, voice shaking. "Always." Halle approached Jenna, placing a hand on her arm. Friends would follow later, but in this moment, it was just the two of them. Just truth. The night ended not with grand gestures but with quiet companionship. A cup of tea shared, soft music in the background, laughter slowly returning. They reminisced not on what was lost but on what had always been true, their bond, their respect, their care. Jenna asked about Halle's feelings. Halle shared what she could. No blame, no accusation, just honesty. Jenna listened. Halle spoke. Between them, space filled with authenticity. Halle looked at old photographs, ones they had taken together, smiles, kisses, hugs, moments of triumph and delight. She felt raw compassion for herself. Jenna watched her. Then Jenna said, "You deserve peace." Halle looked up, tears in her eyes. "I do," she said. Jenna nodded. "And I'm going to try to help you keep it." Halle smiled, small but real. The room felt warmer, the past still present, but no longer shadowing every moment. The friends, at home now, awaited word. Jenna excused herself briefly, called them, said Halle needed rest. Jenna lay by Halle's side. Halle drifted towards sleep, thoughts of the incident trapped between what was said and what was meant. Jenna brushed her hair back, comforted by Halle's breathing. She thought about how easily words can wound, how swiftly friendship can fray, how vital kindness is. Halle slept, finally. Morning dawned pale and calm. Halle awoke to sunlight filtering through sheer curtains. Jenna offered coffee and toast. Halle took a slow sip, the taste bitter but grounding. Jenna sat, watching her. Halle's eyes were clear. Jenna gently said, "I hope you slept okay." Halle nodded. "I did," she said. There was weariness, but also resilience. Jenna reached across the table, touched Halle's hand. "We'll get through the rest of this together." Halle reflected on what had triggered here, and not just the remark, but years of internal pressure, regret, fear of being misunderstood. She realized her reaction was not simply to the comment, but to the cumulative weight of many. Jenna realized that her words, even unintentional, carried power, that friendship's terrain is treacherous when sensitive history lies beneath. Both understood that moving forward meant being mindful, kind, aware. Together, they spoke of boundaries, of how to joke with care, how to avoid old wounds. Jenna promised to listen more, to ask before probing past. Halle promised to raise her voice sooner, to share discomfort before it built. They made no grand vows, only small agreements, the kind that hold ground: honesty, space, respect. They talked until breakfast plates cleared, until laughter found its place again. As Halle prepared for her day, reading scripts, focusing on her art, she felt lighter. Jenna watched her, proud of Halle's courage. Halle's choices, once shadowed by regret, now felt like part of her story, each one necessary, each one just. She resolved not to let past roles define her self-worth, but rather her integrity, her compassion, her artistry. Jenna supported that, cheering, but gently. By evening, Halle felt the tension from earlier had warmed into something softer, understanding, perhaps forgiveness. Jenna cooked dinner, Halle helped. Music played low. They moved around one another in the kitchen, cooking side by side. Jenna said something funny. Halle laughed. The sound felt like healing. The night, once fissured, now held promise. They sat with dinner, candles lit. Halle looked at Jenna, filled with gratitude. And so, the full story isn't about a storm, but about what comes after. After the clash, the silence, the tears, the retreat. It's about love surviving mistakes, about friendship willing to apologize, to understand, about identity and vulnerability. Halle and Jenna's evening ended not with perfection, but with peace, a fragile, beautiful. And in that peace lay the promise of more stories, of resilience, of compassion, of being seen and choosing to stay.